Everybody, I'm joined today by Senators Murray, Stabenow, and Blumenthal. We're talking about judges. In the first year of the Biden administration, as you know, we've had tremendous success confirming federal judges. Tremendous success. We have confirmed more judges to the federal bench, 43 as of this morning, than any president in his first year since Reagan. And that's a big accomplishment. These are, of course, lifetime appointments. In fact, the judges who have been nominated and confirmed not only have remarkable demographic diversity, women, people of color, but for the first time, real professional diversity as well. Public defenders, public interest lawyers, community folks, as opposed to simply partners in big fancy law firms and prosecutors. With Justice Breyer's decision to retire at the end of this term, President Biden has an opportunity to make the Supreme Court look more like America by nominating the first black woman in U.S. history to serve as a justice. We have had 115 justices in the history of this country. Only 5 have been women. Only 2 have been African American. None have been African American women. So this is simply having the court reflect America, which it hasn't in the past. Until, I believe it is 40 or 50 years ago, there were only white males on the bench on the Supreme Court. So America changes and evolves and moves, and so should the Supreme Court. So what President Biden said is a good idea. Now, the Senate will have a fair process that moves quickly to confirm the president's pick. I applaud President Biden's commitment to choosing a qualified and a historic nominee. A more balanced, more diverse judiciary has been one of our top goals ever since we got into the majority a year ago. And we are achieving that, and now we will achieve that, hopefully, at the Supreme Court level as well. The more Americans look at our courts and see people who look like them and come from the same backgrounds and share similar experiences, the better off our justice system and our democracy will be. This week, Senate Democrats are working to confirm even more of President Biden's highly qualified nominees. And in the theme of continuing our success from 2021 into 2022, Democrats are focused on passing legislation that directly helps American families. Today, our economy is in the midst of a historic turnaround with record wage and economic growth. And people talk about, 5.7%. To me, one of the most important things in the economy is wage growth is real. For decades, economists and average folks decried the fact that wage growth was flat. In fact, some of the statistics I've seen show that for about 75% of all Americans, there was no real growth between 2000 and 2020. But now wages are going up. And the second prong of that, getting wages up, is getting costs down. And we Democrats are focusing on getting costs down. In 2021, we responded to the COVID crisis by passing the American Rescue Plan 2 months into the president's term. Of course, we passed a historic infrastructure package that's putting people to work, fixing our roads, our bridges, our highways. And now we're focused on doing more to help families get ahead and stay ahead. Our focus: to help those not into the middle class to get there, giving them the ladders up they need. To those in the middle class, to keep them there and to alleviate their anxiety that they won't stay there. And that's what we're doing. Now, the House is now joining the Senate to pass legislation that will help businesses struggling with strained supply chains. The chip shortage has raised the prices of cars, of appliances, of iPhones. And our bill, USICA, will do that. It also does something else very important to the American people. It says we want the jobs in America, not overseas, in China or Germany or anywhere else. We want them in America, in America. USICA will help make investments on Main Street. You've already seen what happened in Ohio. And it brings good-paying jobs back to the United States. So the continuing push by Democrats and by the Biden administration to have wages go up instead of stay flat is there. We're continuing also to pursue legislation that will lower the cost of prescription drugs and cap the cost of insulin. Instead of $600 a dose, it could go back to $36 a dose. Our agenda, and this is an important point, stands in sharp contrast on almost every item with Republicans, who seem to favor the powerful, wealthy special interests and stand in the way of prescription drugs, being a classic example, but there are many of those. So, while we got a lot done in 2021, we're not resting on our laurels. We're going to keep working on these important issues. Senator Murray.
Well, thank you. You know, everyone understands the real frustration families are feeling right now and knows we've got to keep our foot on the gas. We have a lot of work ahead, but the progress we have made so far over the past year really offers us a clear path forward. Democrats took action on the American Rescue Plan to fight this pandemic, and today, thanks to President Biden's leadership and our work, over 200 million people are now fully vaccinated. Free tests are available at covidtest.gov, and free masks are now available at pharmacies and grocery stores across the country. Last year, following historic investments in our nation's infrastructure and in our families and communities, our economy grew faster than it has in nearly 4 decades, and unemployment dropped back below 4%. Thanks to support for schools to get tests and masks and improve ventilation and meet our students' needs, schools are now in a much stronger position today to safely stay open for in-person learning. And following the efforts we took to lower costs, a record 14.5 million people got health care through the federal exchange last year, and they saved on average over $2,000 a year. We've also saved pensions that workers and retirees rely on from devastating cuts. Now, none of this was a given. It's not the result of chance. It was the result of action and leadership. That is important to remember because what happens next is not a given either. Whether we build on the progress for families or lose it, it's a question of will. Democrats want to press forward with additional action in Build Back Better to bring down our health care costs, especially drug costs, bring down child care costs, and address the climate crisis and more. We also want to make our nation competitive and make prices less reliant on foreign manufacturing, which is why we are working to pass legislation to strengthen our supply chains, ensure the technologies of the present and the future are made and developed right here in the U.S., and create more good-paying jobs, more investment, and greater economic prosperity for our families. This is especially important in my home state of Washington, which is already the home of premier research institutions, technology and aerospace leaders, and growers and producers that are constantly competing on the world stage. Democrats also want to improve our response to this pandemic and future health crises, to protect the right to vote, the cornerstone of our democracy. And of course, we are all excited to work with President Biden and take an historic step in ensuring that our nation's highest court truly reflects the diversity of its people by confirming the first black woman to the Supreme Court. The past year has shown what a difference the choices we can make have for our nation. I know this has been a really impossible time for so many Americans, and we have a lot more work to do to build on the steps we've taken so far so we can end this pandemic, rebuild stronger and fairer, and give people back the certainty and stability in their lives they want. In the year ahead, Democrats are going to continue to focus on solutions, and we will work around the clock to deliver.
Senator Stabenow.
Well, thank you very much. First, let me say, because today is the first day of Black History Month, what an exciting time this is, and to know that in this month, President Biden will be nominating the first black woman to the United States Supreme Court, and that we in the Senate are going to have the opportunity to confirm her. So it's a very exciting time. And it's also an exciting time for the economy because President Biden and Democrats are getting the economy back on track. Every kind of number shows that. And a strong economy means strong families and strong communities, and frankly, a strong future for all Americans. Democrats worked with President Biden to pass the American Rescue Plan, no small feat. Getting shots into arms, getting kids back into classrooms, and getting our economy moving again and it is working. When President Biden took office, 18 million people were unemployed. 18 million people. Today it's 2 million people on unemployment. We've helped businesses create 6 million jobs, the greatest year of job growth in American history. We've seen the best economic growth since 1984, and we've seen the biggest single-year drop in our unemployment rate in our nation's history. And yet we fully understand, completely that COVID-related challenges have caused prices to rise, and it's not acceptable. So Democrats are laser focused on bringing down costs for Americans. That is our focus at this moment. Since day one, President Biden and Democrats have been putting the American people first every day. Senate Republicans talk a lot about inflation. They talk about it all the time. They view it as a great political issue, but what have they done about it? What have they done other than talk about it? Well, frankly, they've done nothing but vote no on things to bring prices down. We have a report from the DPCC today on every piece that relates to the cost in American lives and how, in fact, Republicans have voted no. All of them voted no over and over again. No to actions that will lower the cost of food. No on supporting restaurants that have worked hard to help people stay employed during the pandemic. No on lowering health care costs. No on lowering child care costs, housing costs for people. No on lowering heating costs for people. They even voted no on the largest tax cut in a generation for American families with children. Republicans are way too busy standing up for big corporations who are actually price gouging Americans while making record profits. So we, Democrats, are laser focused on lowering costs and continuing the strongest economy in 38 years. Thank you.
Senator Blumenthal.
Thank you.
Member of the Judiciary Committee.
Thank you. Also a member of the Commerce Committee and chair of
Would you like
this.
to name your other committees too?
And chair of the Consumer Protection Subcommittee, where we are going to have a hearing in, well, I'm already late, on price gouging of COVID tests and other pandemic-related products. Price gouging on COVID tests. And I want to second and support my colleagues in what they've said about the priority we've given to lowering costs, particularly health care costs and prescription drug costs, and the need to pass measures to keep manufacturing in America and to make sure that we look at some of the areas of our economy that have not seen the kind of progress that others have. For example, restaurants. I was in a restaurant yesterday in Connecticut, in Hartford, Carbone's. Anybody who's been to Hartford knows about Carbone's. It's closed because it can't get restaurant revitalization funding, and replenishing that fund is absolutely critical. I'm grateful to my colleague, Senator Cardin, but also to Senator Wicker. It's a bipartisan measure. We need to do it, and Democrats have led on this issue, just to take one part of our program. I want to talk about President Biden's appointments to the courts. No president in American history, none, has made appointments as diverse as President Biden. This morning in the Judiciary Committee, we had testimony from 3 women nominees to the federal bench. One, a woman of Japanese descent whose parents were interned during World War II. Another, a Native American woman who grew up on a Navajo reservation. These kinds of appointees have broken new ground. Never before has any president made the federal bench look like the people of America. This diversity and inclusiveness strengthens the federal bench. And that's what President Biden will do with his nominee to the United States Supreme Court. Now, I've argued 4 cases in the United States Supreme Court, mostly before white male judges. I was a law clerk to Justice Blackmun at a time when the court was all white male judges. The strength of the courts is increased when litigants and the American people go before judges who look like America, and that's what President Biden is going to be doing. The Judiciary Committee has begun preparing. We're comparing notes. The White House has begun reaching out very significantly, and we are prepared to move quickly but fairly. And I am looking forward to a nominee who has such a compelling life story and qualifications that, in fact, there will be bipartisan support. I'm looking forward to a quick process that will be fair but expeditious. And I believe that we can do it, and we will.
Thank you, Senator Blumenthal, members of Judiciary and Commerce Committee. Okay, yes, we'll start the left and work your way over.
Leader Schumer, thank you. Senator Manchin earlier today said that Build Back Better is, in his words, dead. Is he right about that?
Look, there are ongoing, we're fighting hard for Build Back Better. There are lots of provisions in that bill that are very important, many of which Senator Manchin supports, such as, say, drug pricing. And so we are continuing to work on it, and there are conversations going on between Senator Manchin and different senators right now.
Thank you. So on the Ukraine-Russia issue, are you concerned that the United States maybe should be more engaged in the military side of this? Not obviously putting troops on the ground or something like that. Compared to sanctions, and are you worried about divides in your caucus between what the administration is proposing doing and what's going to be done up here on sanctions?
Well, Senators Menendez and Reich are working very closely together and are coming close to a final agreement on a sanctions provision. There are a couple of outstanding issues that they're working on, but I am hopeful that we can get a strong bipartisan sanctions bill to the floor relatively soon.
Especially in light of the former president's comments over the weekend suggesting that he thought Mike Pence could overturn the election. Are you in favor of updating the Electoral Count Act? Do you support either of the plans that seem to be bubbling up among your members?
I have encouraged our Democratic side to discuss and set up these bipartisan meetings with the Republican side. We'll have to see what they come out with. There's another bill that was introduced today, I believe. That was Senator King's bill on ECA. Look, reforming the Electoral College is a good thing to do, but it sure doesn't replace the need to deal with voting rights, dark money, and reapportionment. Next.
Leader Schumer, will you be moving ahead with standalone votes on Build Back Better this month? And if not, then what's changed?
Well, as I said, we're continuing to have discussions, and we will be moving forward on Build Back Better. You will see how we do that as we move forward. Yes, ma'am, and then you, Jonathan. What? Yeah, look, as I said, Build Back Better, we want to get as much of Build Back Better done as we can, and you will see us move forward on it.
Do you have any comment on the report that former President Trump was actually personally involved in ordering the seizure of voting machines? And what impact does that have in your view that any ECA bill needs to be broadened to at least address election administration?
On your second question, as I said, I thought ECA it has to do other things, and I mentioned three that were in the two bills that we had, the John Lewis bill and the Freedom to Vote Act. But dealing with interference with election officials, dealing with the issue you've brought up are important as well. And so I think that, just doing ECA is not sufficient. It may be necessary, but not sufficient. And ECA deals with the situation in 2024. A lot of these things deal with, like the situation you deal with 2022 and are more urgent and immediate. Yes?
Leader Schumer, you mentioned the House action on the Competes Act this week. That bill is very different than the USICA bill that the Senate approved. Are you worried that sorting out the differences between that partisan bill and your bill
Well,
is
As you know, I pushed the House to move for a long period of time. I care very much about this bill. Actually, the framework that they set up and the framework that's in the USICA bill are not that far apart. I believe all the gaps are very bridgeable. We're having productive discussions with the House Democrats. I don't know if any Republicans will support it in the House, but we're also having productive discussions with Senate Republicans, and we will get, I am very optimistic we will get this bill done very shortly. Okay? Last one from the background over there. That's you. That's you.
Okay, do you think that bringing the mandatory arbitration?
Being a Democrat, I like to call on people who are in the back of the room, not just in the front row. Go ahead.
The House is set to pass the
You got to say it again. I'm sorry.
The House is set to pass the mandatory arbitration bill this week. Do you plan to put that on?
We have great bipartisan support. I believe there are 10 Republican co-sponsors. It's a bill that we would like to move very quickly. Okay? Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.